Good day, everyone. So today we will talk about the tale of the Pearl of the Orient, the Philippines. I am Erica Young, and together with my groupmates in international study, we are Group 6. We will explore the variant history of the Philippines. So before we get started, here is the overview of our presentation. For our agenda, we will talk about the brief history of the Philippines. Second, its most important milestone. Third is the anticipated future developments of the country. Fourth, significant periods. Fifth, change in history. Sixth, the significant contributions. And lastly is the key takeaways or the conclusions. Now, let's get started. First, the brief overview of Philippine history.
First is the pre-Hispanic period, which lasted until 1565. So before the Spanish colonization in the Philippines, the pre-Hispanic Philippines was colorful. Despite not having the sense of oneness, we already had established customs, beliefs, and local cultural history distinct in every region. Though, because of the Spanish colonization, most of these traditions were washed off and lost. Firstly, we already had our own political system. Similar to our current political systems, barangays were led by datus, who governed and handled all the affairs happening with their territory. The Code of Calantiao is believed to be the first ever legal code of the Philippines. It was supposedly written by Datu Calantiao of Panay in 1433 and was found in 1614. The government recognized this code, but after further research, historians concluded that it was ended a hoax by historian Jose E. Marco. Despite being a hoax, the Code of Calantiao is still regarded up until today. Before the colonization of the Spaniards, which caused the spread of Catholicism, our ancestors were mostly animists, which meant they believed in gods, spirits, and objects deemed them sacred. Additionally, pre-Hispanic Philippines were already making small trades with neighboring countries through ships that landed on shores despite not being as advanced as neighboring countries.
Then came the Spaniards that occupied the country from 1565 to 1898. One of the most significant events in the history of the Philippines is Spanish colonization because it played a key role and affected it. Now, how did they colonize the Philippines? Ferdinand Magellan is a Portuguese explorer but was tasked to voyage under Spain. His main goal was to go to Spice Island, hoping that it would bring immense riches to Spain. Throughout his voyage, Magellan was with Pigafetta, a scholar who was his assistant. So now, what is Pigafetta's relevance in the Spanish colonization? Pigafetta wrote chronological accounts of Magellan's voyage and vividly described what happened during the expedition. Instead of landing at Spice Island, Magellan was lost and landed in Homonhon, located in Samar. That event was a turning point, leading to the colonization in 1565. The Spanish colonization unified the country and was named after King Philip II. They colonized the Philippines for 333 years, and one of their most significant influences was the spread of Catholicism, which at present is the most dominant religion in the country. They have built infrastructures, mostly churches in the archipelago, brought education, and helped the country develop by establishing religion, laws, and different aspects. However, the Spanish colonization was not all good. Filipinos before were oppressed and had been abused by the colonizers. The Spaniards enforced strict rules that is favorable only to them, and the locals had no choice but to follow them. This then led to the bloom and nationalism and ignited revolutions. Filipinos fought against the Spanish of our independence. Some notable figures during this time are Comburza, Jose Rizal, and Andres Bonifacio.
After Spanish colonization, we had American colonization, which lasted from 1898 to 1946. The American colonization, however, lasted for 48 years. In 1898, there was a war between Spain and the United States. Consequently, Spain sold the Philippines to the United States at $20 million. We declared our independence on June 12, 1898, hence establishing the first ever Philippine Republic led by Emilio Aguinaldo. Revolting against colonization to fight for our independence, our ancestors fought battles against the Americans, which was led by Emilio Aguinaldo. And in 1899, the Filipinos revolted against American rule, triggering a war. Unsuccessful, the United States continued to rule over the country. Compared to the 300 long years of Spanish rule, Filipinos had more freedom during this period. They helped the country develop through innovations in different sectors. Firstly, in education, the Americans established a public school system and improved the current education system. Multiple universities were established, such as University of the Philippines and Silliman University, which still exists today. The trade industry during the colonization also improved, with the exports continuously increasing, which affected our local industry and economic growth. This also allowed us to make imports and exports to different states. Americans also influenced public health by promoting nutrition and proper diet. During the American colonization, the cholera outbreak, killing thousands of Filipinos. Battling with the outbreak has been challenging, as during this time they were stuck with their traditional beliefs and skepticism took over them, which caused problems.
Then came the Japanese occupation from 1942 to 1946. During the World War II, Japan launched attacks on the Philippines and forced the troops to retreat to Bataan and Corregidor. In 1942, Japan successfully invaded the Philippines. One of the most significant things that happened was forced recruitment of girls to serve as a sex slave termed as a comfort woman by the Japanese during their colonization. At their different comfort stations, women, mostly underage, were required to sleep with Japanese military men more than 30 times daily. They occupied the Philippines until 1945, and we are later granted independence by the U.S. in 1946.
After everything that happened throughout Philippine history, since 1946, the Philippines has been functioning independently, free from colonizers. We are known as Asia's Pearl of the Orient and our famous summer destination due to their white sand beaches and islands. With a democratic type of government, the Philippines continues to strive as a lower middle income developing country.
Moving forward, now that we have already talked about Philippine history, we will discuss the important milestones the country has achieved. We have divided it into 6 categories, which we will discuss one by one. First is the political milestones. One significant political milestone of the Philippines was when the United States granted us independence in 1946. This is historical because after being colonized by different countries for decades, we could finally govern our land and gain the freedom we have long been fighting for. Another political milestone is the EDSA People Power Revolution that happened in 1986 to overthrow the former President Ferdinand Marcos. Millions of Filipinos came united to protest against the injustices and dictatorship and to gain back their rights and liberty. During his regime, Filipinos were silent and were forced to succumb to the harsh regulation enforced, especially during the declaration of martial law. This serves as a historical event as they have proven that the power is indeed in the people, especially in a democratic country.
Moving forward, a notable economic milestone is Republic Act No. 7916, or the 1995 Special Economic Zone Act. This aims to promote and help our country's economy through exports and trade, helping the country's working, manufacturing, and service sectors. This gave Filipinos more working opportunities in different industries, which help our exports. This year, the Philippines targets better and more significant economic growth than in past years. For the social aspect, we have been a member of the United Nations since 1945. This allowed us to connect with different member states, creating a social bond with neighboring countries and improving our international relations and partnerships. This helped the country to innovate and grow socially, being part of a system that aims to maintain peace and healthy connections in the international sector. Not only that, but the Philippines is also part of different intergovernmental organizations such as ASEAN and the World Bank, which serves as milestone for the country.
As for the technological milestones, there are few. In 2014, we had the fastest growing internet population as said by the Global Web Index. Now, what is the relevance of this and why is it considered a milestone? Despite having a fewer internet users than neighboring countries, we had the fastest growing internet population, which was a breakthrough in the web and technology industry. Regarding transportation technology, we have developed a more efficient way to travel through the MRT and LRT stations, making traveling more convenient and accessible, especially around the capital. Moving forward, for cultural milestones, rich and colorful traditions in the form of festivals are still present and well celebrated up until today. Different cities have their festivities and celebrations in honor of the traditions they have maintained since it started. So, as we already know, most of the Filipino population are Roman Catholics who were brought by the Spanish colonization. This makes us Filipinos very religious and have many activities commemorating our faith. An example of which is during the January 9th of every year, when we devotees celebrate the feast of the Black Nazarene through carrying the relic in a procession all over the city.
When it comes to sports milestones, the Philippines indeed has a lot to showcase. It is already a given that in Manny Pacquiao's matches, every Filipino family is glued to their screens to witness his fight. He has won 12 major world titles and is known in the country and the entire world, breaking through the history of boxing. Making her way to the top, Heidelin Diaz became the first ever Olympic gold medalist from the Philippines. He has bagged several medals in weightlifting, representing the country internationally. The Philippines has continued to work hard to reach the spotlight in multiple sports categories, such as gymnastics, football, volleyball, and others.
Now that we have discussed the history milestones of the country, what future developments could be expected in the Philippines in the wake of this pandemic? The future may see a development of the economy and upward trend in various aspects. For example, by the end of this year, we anticipate a 6.0% to 7.0% growth rate for our gross domestic product. Throughout lockdown, for years many industries had no option but to shut down because they could not comply with the stringent measure aimed at curbing the spread of COVID-19. These closures led not only to negative growth but also increased unemployment levels nationally. Organizations within the manufacturing sector will have recovered from the losses incurred during this period while creating more opportunities for employment, hence eradicating poverty among families in Philippines that had been established as a result of their closure. Moreover, because of the pandemic, the tourism sector gradually declined because tourists weren't expected to, which affected local industries and projected an effect on the economy. As we are now opening our ports again for international tourists, we expect higher tourism revenue. Overall, a more innovative Philippines is expected with the help of different government sectors focusing on various aspects that can help the country grow and develop further.
Now, what part or period of Philippine history is most significant for us? The most significant period of Philippine history for us is the Spanish colonization. For 333 long years, we have been colonized by the Spaniards. They have helped us gain a sense of oneness, uniting us collectively with the help of religion. Regardless of their help and the innovation that they have brought, thousands of Filipinos have sacrificed their lives for the country's independence. The Spanish colonization ignited our sense of nationalism, birthing national thinkers and heroes who strived and fought for the liberation that we deserve, a country that we, the locals, lead. It serves as a reminder to continuously fight for what we believe in, especially if it's for the betterment of our co-Filipinos. We must not allow anyone to abuse and take over our land, despite the huge difference when it comes to advancements of Spain during that time. Nothing is impossible, setting us free from decades-long colonization.
If there is one thing that we can change during Philippine history, it would be the period of Marcos regime. As mentioned in the previous slides, every Filipino knows about former President Marcos and his famous declaration of martial law. Throughout his regime, thousands of Filipinos have been abused, tortured, molested, and have been treated inhumanely. Not only that, but many have died tragic deaths because of his strict and unfair military rule. Basic human rights have not been granted to the citizens, and everyone, especially those in the lower sector. The most vulnerable was scared as their lives were at stake. Despite having multiple developments during his time in terms of economy and infrastructure, it would still not be enough to justify the deaths and the abuse of power that he possessed during this time. So, changing this part of Philippine history would save thousands of Filipinos who suffered and died throughout this dictatorial regime.
Moreover, the most significant contribution of the Philippines to the world, it is undoubtedly its people, the Filipinos. Filipinos are everywhere in the world, with millions of them working abroad. Other than helping the country's economy because of their remittances, their service in different states is significant, especially in countries that needs domestic and professional workers. Other than our modern heroes, our tourism sector has greatly affected the world as well, being one of the top destinations for foreigners, especially during the summer because of our white sand beaches and other beautiful destinations and tourist spots. Of course, our natural resources are one to be noted as well. We have been exported different manufactures, and our natural resources such as mineral are significant in the international system.
Overall, the Philippines has gone through so much, from undergoing multiple colonizations to uncountable fights for independence, fair treatment, and liberation. Our vibrant history is proof of our resilience and hard work. Understanding and studying Philippine history remind us to continuously strive for the betterment of the country, which is free from colonization and injustice.
What is now our history was once their present, and our present will someday be someone's history. Thus, we should learn from the mistakes that had been made in the past and now make more knowledgeable and better decisions that are not only beneficial in our personal aspects but for the whole nation, especially for those in the lower sector who deserve better and good governance.
And that's it for our presentation. Thank you for listening.